creator, writer, and everything that you do? What were your main influences?
Well, I'm old, so I was born in 1964. So I really started watching stuff in the late 60s and early 70s. So when I was growing up, for me in America, basically Steve McQueen was kind of the guy that I liked. I liked The Towering Inferno. I liked his performance in Bullet, Thomas Crown Affair. Also Paul Newman and Robert Redford together, Butch Cassidy, and The Sting, which won Best Picture in 1973. So I was a late 60s, early 70s guy. Burt Reynolds, I thought was really a great actor, honestly. I mean, he sort of eventually got caught up in doing all of these movies about cars and things, but if you see Deliverance, John Boorman's Deliverance, he's an amazing actor in that. I mean, the thing I have to explain to you about America in the 70s is we don't really know where our parents went. We didn't have a whole lot of... If they were parents, I had parents, but I don't know where they were, what they were doing. Because I saw Deliverance in the movie theater, which is a very, very tough movie, when I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. That's not a movie that you should see when you're 9 or 10 years old. But everything was so kind of relaxed and I don't know, super liberal and kind of, leftover, kind of like, hey man, from the 60s, yeah, it's groovy. Just let the kids go to the movies, man, So there was like that kind of feeling. So, so those were some of the male influences on me, obviously. And then there was like Raquel Welch was like the female influence on me. That's probably when I first realized that I was completely in love with women, was when I saw Raquel Welch in Kansas City Bomber. So those were the people that I liked as movie stars, really more than actors. Then when I got older, I started liking people like more sort of character-y actor people like Malcolm McDowell.
Well, you actually worked with Malcolm McDowell.
Well, sort of. See, this is the funny thing about being an actor. I'm in the same movie as Malcolm McDowell, but I never met him. Because we shot on different days. And actually, that's not true. I just met him at a convention in Toronto. I finally was like, I was sitting here signing some stuff, and he was literally about 2 or 3 people over there. So I said to someone who knew him, can you introduce me to Malcolm McDowell, because I love him and I think he's amazing, and I did a movie with him and I never met him. So they're like, yeah. So I went over and I was like, Mr. McDowell, hi, I'm Zack Galligan. I'm sorry, we actually did a film together. And he goes, oh, really? Which one? And I said, we did a movie called Cyborg 3, The Recycler. And he went, oh, dear. Oh, my. I said, do you remember it? He goes, all 75,000 of it. I said, you only shot one day? He goes, one day in this just appalling steel mill. Yes, oh dear. Well, it's nice to finally meet you. So I finally met him, he was very charming, he was cool and stuff like that, but it took me a good, after when I finally probably saw Clockwork Orange when I was about 17, 18 years old, so it took me a good 33 years before I finally actually met Malcolm McDowell. So that was kind of cool. And he's an amazing actor. So that's some of the influences.
Great. Actually, I wanted to speak about the movie that you just presented 2 or 3 days ago. I just watched it not long ago.
You were talking about Nothing Lasts Forever?
Nothing Lasts Forever is an absolutely extraordinary film.
Thank you.
It only has one problem, which is...
Nobody's seen it.
Nobody's seen it because it was never released. I wanted to ask you 2 things about this film. First one is what happened so it never got actually distributed, because it's really a special and original film. And the second one, you need to tell us the same story that we were fortunate enough to hear last night.
Okay.
I think you should share.
So the first movie I did, I got when I was 18 years old, and I thought it was going to be the movie that was going to really just catapult me out there, because it was a Saturday Night Live movie, or at least it was billed as being a Saturday Night. You guys all know Saturday Night Live, of course.
Yeah.
So it was Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. And then John Belushi passed away in March of 1982, about 6 weeks before we did the movie. So that just left Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. And so, but that's still enough probably to have a pretty successful film. So we did this movie, and it's very, very strange.
The first one you did, actually.
It was the first film I ever did. I was a senior in high school, and I'm actually the lead in the movie, and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray just play supporting parts in it, sort of as a favor to Tom Schiller, who's the director, who did short films on Saturday Night Live. And the movie came together, and it's very strange and definitely ahead of its time, and it's black and white and it's color. It's about a guy who wants to be an artist. He falls in love with this girl, and then they put him on a bus to the moon where everyone's shopping. You're like, what? It just doesn't really like that. It's a very difficult film to sell. And then the director kind of made it a little bit hard on himself because he used all sorts of clips from famous movies like Eisenstein's Potemkin and D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation and Intermezzo with Ingrid Bergman, and he didn't pay for them. It was like sampling, except he didn't pay for, in music, he didn't pay for the rights to the songs. So we had this problem, which was this unmarketable movie with all of these clips that he didn't pay for. So, long story short, eventually what they decided to do was do something in America they call take it as a tax loss. And if you take it as a tax loss, you can write it off completely as a business loss, provided that you don't make any money of any kind in terms of profit from the film. So that lasted something like, they had to take a tax loss for something like 12 years in order to get the tax credit. So that means that the movie sat on the shelf for 12 years, and then after 12 years, of course, everyone's forgotten about it. It's just sitting there collecting dust, and everyone's moved on and done other things in their career, and just nobody cares. But you may now wonder, well, why are we even hearing about this if it's a lost movie? In 2006, Bill Murray really loved the movie, and they had a career retrospective of him at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and he picked Nothing Lasts Forever as one of his 5 favorite films that he'd ever done. And people were like, what the hell is Nothing Lasts Forever? So that got that was kind of a big splash.
So, sorry to interrupt, now we have 18-year-old Zack Galligan and Bill Murray, which is already a star, right?
He's a huge star. He's done Meatballs and Stripes, and he was just shooting Tootsie, and he was on Saturday Night Live for 4 or 5 years. So he was a very, very big... So what happened? Well, so... Filipe wants me to tell my Bill Murray story, so I'll tell you. That's really what he wants you to do. Wants me to do. So I'm 18 years old, and I just think Bill Murray's the greatest thing ever. I mean, I just think he's so funny. All of his kind of devil-may-care thing, right? Where he walks in, a surprise party for me? Get out of here, you knucklehead. That whole character, when you're 18 years old, you think that's the coolest guy ever. Right? So I thought, oh my God, I got this movie, I'm the lead, I'm going to be working with Bill Murray. Bill Murray and I, we're going to be like friends. We're going to be like best friends. We're going to hang out, do things together, tell funny stories, Of course, Bill Murray's like 34. I'm 18 years old, right? Why does he want to hang out with an 18-year-old kid? So the first day of rehearsal before even shooting, I know Bill Murray's, going to come and kind of just come to the set. So he comes in, I'm sitting here, I'm pretending to read a magazine, trying to be all cool, but I'm freaking out, just completely freaking out. I'm flipping my magazine. He comes in, he starts talking to the director, Tom Schiller. He takes a glance over at me like this. I can see him sort of looking at me, I'm looking at him, everything like that. So the director says, so, have you met Zack? And Bill Murray goes, no, I haven't. I said, oh yeah, so this is Zack. I'm like, hi Mr. Murray, how are you? He's like, yeah, you can call me Billy. Okay, Billy, great. And he looks at the director and he goes, so has the kid paid his dues yet? I mean, has he done anything? Is he any good? I'm sitting there going, 18, this is like my first movie, I haven't really paid the dues. He's like, oh, okay. Then we get to the set. The first day, he's acting really weird to me. What's going on? He's just sort of being like cold. I'm like, how you doing today, Bill? He's like, fine. Looking away from me and stuff like that. So then my sister comes and visits the set, and he decides he's going to mess with my sister a little bit. So he comes up to my sister when I'm like learning my lines, and she's just sort of watching over the side. And he comes up to my sister and he goes, "Don't suck any energy in the room. They'll know." My sister's like, "What the hell is going on?" She's like, tells me, I'm like, I don't know. Just learning my lines. I don't know. Then my mom comes on the set, and she's a psychotherapist. So he's like, "Oh boy, I'm gonna have fun with this one." So it's a scene where he has to slap me across the face. He slaps me across the face really hard, and then he goes, "Sorry." Right after he slaps me really hard, he just apologizes immediately afterwards. So take one, we do it, we do a couple of rehearsals, he's totally fine. Take one, he comes out, he goes, "Slap." "Sorry, but we fly you all the way to Venus." "Oh, I'm sorry, it's all the way to the moon. Let's do that again." Gets out and he comes back. "Slap. Sorry, but we fly you all the way to Pluto." "But oh, it's the moon." My mom's starting to go like this, like Kermit the Frog starting to go like this. Squinching her face up. Isn't it? He's like, "Hey, Dr. Galligan, how are you?" To my mom. Comes out again. He's like, I'm like, "So we fly you out all the way to the moon." Slap. "Oh, sorry. I guess we have," what's my line again? I don't know. 22 takes. He's slapping me. I'm sitting there, they're starting to put makeup on my face because it's starting to bruise a little bit on my cheekbone. Going, what the hell's going on with this guy? So eventually, I started to kind of do what I thought. I'm going to Tom, I'm like, "What's going on with Bill Murray? Why is he being so mean to me? He's kind of being a dick." "Well, I don't know what to tell you, Zack. I mean, I just think he's like, you guys are supposed to be enemies in the movie. So, maybe he's doing kind of like a little method thing. I don't know." So just when I would get like so kind of depressed and everything like that, he'd come on the set the next day, he'd be like, "Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Good to see you, crew members. How's everybody doing? Great, look at you." And then he'd point to me, "Look at you, you little incandescent knucklehead. Come here for a second." And he'd give me like little noogies on my head like this. And he knew that I liked this lounge singer character that he used to do on Saturday Night Live, right? The one that would sing "Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars." Right? He would make up lyrics to songs and stuff like that. So he would sing me a song and it would be really funny like that. I'd go, "Wow, this is really good. This is great." And then when the movie ended, it was just kind of like, he was like, "Well, bye." And I was like, what just happened to me working with my hero? And it was like such a crushing disappointment. Now I know this isn't the story that you wanted to hear. You wanted to hear a story with a happy ending. So the nice thing is, there's a very nice happy ending to this. So I went to college at Columbia University. I was a history major, and after I did Gremlins, I went back to school and went back to class. Right? In between movies, you do this, you do that, and then you go back to class. So I'm going to class. As I'm going to class, I see they're shooting a movie on my college campus. And I look over, and there's this white car, and it's got like this ghost on it with a little circle and a red slash through it. And I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" Then I look over and I see two people look exactly like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. They're in these suits. They've got these guns, huge guns in their hands. I'm like, what the heck? And they're all of these kind of like police barriers to stop people from going onto the set. So I run up to the police barrier and I look at them because I know these guys. I just worked with these guys. This is awesome. They're on my college campus. So I kind of push my way up to the front. And you would think maybe the kids would be shouting something, but the kids are more like this. Oh my God. Like they're in total awe that they're shooting. Nobody's saying anything. So I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to, "Hey, Billy, Danny, over here. Hey, Billy, Danny." And so since no one's saying anything and there's not a lot of noise or anything, Murray looks over at me and he goes, "What the? It's the kid!" And Aykroyd looks over and he goes, "Oh yeah, come on over." And I'm like, Murray's like, "Come on over." So I try to go under the barricade. The cop goes, "No sir, you can't go under there. That's just for the actors." And Murray walks over and he goes, Officer, it's okay. He's with us." And so I go under, and now I'm leaning against the car, and I'm talking to Bill, I'm talking to Dan Aykroyd. Aykroyd's like, hey, you just worked with Steven, right? Because he did 1941. I'm like, yeah, I just did Gremlins, man. How was it? It was cool. What's this? Oh, it's Ghostbusters. Oh, that's great. Wow, it looks good. When's it coming out? Next summer. Oh, my movie's coming out next summer, too. Oh, that's great. All that kind of, shooting the breeze and everything like that. And they're like, so what are you doing here? I'm like, actually, I'm going to class. Oh, shoot, I probably need to go to class right now. Well, it's awesome seeing you. Oh, great to see you. You guys knock it out. Go get those Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters? Is that what it is? Yeah, Ghostbusters. Okay, great. And I turn around and I walk back to the police barricade, and I'm just walking back thinking, and I look up and all my classmates are like this. Like, what did I just see? And I duck under the thing, and the whole crowd just kind of parts like the Red Sea. And I walk off to my class, and I thought to myself, thank you for the best college moment ever! So what he eventually explained to me was that, he thought I was... He knew that in the movie we had to play enemies. And he knew I was a very inexperienced actor, and he knew that I was kind of in awe of him, and he was afraid that if he was all palsy with me, that when it came time to shoot the scenes, I'd still be going like, hey, as opposed to like, So what he wanted to do is, rather than have me, since I didn't have much experience, pretend to hate him, he just decided he would have me actually hate him. Because that's a lot easier to act if you really just hate the person.
And it seems to work.
And it totally worked.
Okay, the next question brings us to Gremlins.
Yes.
Well, I read some interviews and I heard you speak about Gremlins, and I get the feeling that at some point you probably were quite annoyed with all the Gremlins lines that people told you all the time. But then I read that you, maybe 2 years ago, you had an Empire magazine shoot, and it really was a quite thrilling story for me to read the moment when you actually held Gizmo again after 30 years.
30 years. 30 years, yeah.
So when that circle closed, like probably for a while you were fed up with people asking you the rules and everything.
Sure. Well, I when people ask me this question, I describe there was a period in the late 90s, early 2000s that I describe as what I would call gremlin fatigue. It's one of those things that people ask you about something so much, and it's the only thing that they ask you about, that after a while it becomes kind of, it just becomes frustrating, because you have done other things, and you worked in television, you've done other things, you've done Broadway, and you've done other various things, and all people really want to talk about, and what most people remember you for is Gremlins. So I think it's kind of natural that you go through a period where that's a little frustrating. But eventually, I think what happened was you meet a lot of other actors, and you see how hard and how long they struggle and how much they would love to be in like what most people would call a hit movie. And you realize that it's really, a movie also that lasts. And lasts, because I had no idea that at 32 years later I'd be sitting here, in Lisbon on a stage talking to you guys. When I did it, I thought it would be a good movie. I didn't know it was going to last, a third of a century. That's pretty rare. So eventually you get to the point where you realize, if you're an actor, you want to be known, it's better to be known for something than to be known for nothing. And I just decided at one point, like, I'm never going to escape it. Why should I escape it? The internet came along and elevated it. It made it into sort of like from a classic into like an American classic, into like an 80s classic, into like a world pop. It's crazy to me, because every year it seems to, rather than to be going down and diminishing, it just seems to be going up and up and up another level. And when Gremlins 3 comes out, that's probably going to push it all the way to the absolute who knows what.
Just one question: who has seen Gremlins already?
I told you the easier question is who hasn't seen Gremlins. Who hasn't seen Gremlins? Raise your hand. See, I told you about 10.
Oh, I know that guy. You haven't seen Gremlins? Out.
You must leave immediately.
Okay.
So yeah, eventually you just are, eventually, if you look at my Twitter feed, it actually says on, the first thing it says on it is Gremlin Dude. Because for my entire life, people are like, dude, you're the dude from Gremlins, right, dude? Dude, you're the dude from Gremlins? I'm like, that's me, I'm the Gremlin Dude.